clock is showing 1:02 p.m. This is a special meeting of the Public Safety Committee meeting on December 30th, 2014. And we'll begin with a roll call. If we could, we'll start the corner of the clerk's office.
Jane Hanks, business license official.
Amanda Moser, Deputy Municipal Clerk.
Julia Tucker, Assembly Counsel.
Jennifer Johnston.
Bill Evans.
Jim Steele.
Amy Dimboski.
Dick Trainee.
Paul Holman.
Pete Peterson.
Patrick Select.
And Ms. Greg Jackson called and notified us she might be about 10 to 15 minutes late, so we expect her to join us in the middle. This meeting actually set forth with some exhibits. Does everybody have exhibit A through G from the actual agenda items? It actually talks about some attachments that have been forwarded. Also, there are standards that are, and Ms. Tucker, do you want to do the standards, or I know we have it under item 4. Would you prefer to cover it under item 4, or would you like to?
Well, I think that I'm fine with whatever you wish. My understanding is that this was a follow-on to some questions and concerns that the applicant, Robert Alexander, had at a prior public safety meeting, and so I anticipated that he would be making.
Is there any way you guys can turn
presentation.
the volume up a little bit? Cutting out here.
And I'm sorry, who's on the phone?
This is Matt Fink. I'm calling from out of state.
Matt Fink, okay. Okay, we'll do the best we can, Matt. Can you hear us any better?
Yeah, that sounds a lot better.
Okay. Okay, why don't we just hold for a moment, we'll just pick you back up under item 4 then, as scheduled on the agenda. I don't see, oh, there he is, Mr. Alexander is here. If you'd like to have a chair up here at the table, up on this side, if you'd like, Mr. Alexander is here. As you know, I believe, Ms. Moser might confirm with me, it's, this matter is coming before the Anchorage Assembly on January 27th, the protest or the transfer of the license. Is that right, Ms. Manager? 27th? And will that be under a regular item of the agenda or special order?
Special orders.
With the protest that was registered with the Alcohol Beverage Control Board, there's a list of issues that would accompany that, and I believe were prepared and delivered to Mr. Alexander. Mr. Alexander, were you given the conditions of the protest, the issues that the protest is based on?
Yeah, what the protest was based on, but I don't think I got any conditions. Is that in there?
Not conditions, but the
protest,
issues.
yeah, and the attachments I did. I
There
have
were some
that.
attachments, okay, very good. Well, what we need to do then is hear from you. I know that you were going to be out of town most of January, and you had asked that perhaps we'd be able to have you get an opportunity to hear what some of the concerns were, which is why the delivery was made to you as quickly as possible after it was prepared. And then secondly, that you'd like to make a presentation to the Public Safety Committee. And as you see, pretty much everybody is here. Mr. Hall is the only one absent from the assembly. And Ms. Greg Jackson should be here momentarily.
Mr. Starr.
And Mr. Starr, I apologize. So you have a majority of the assembly here. So we have, given the attachments, the exhibits that were listed, I believe we'd like to hear from you first if we could. However, Ms. Tucker, do you think it's wise to go ahead and...
Well, I think that what as you've indicated, Shelley Miller-Hodeman, there was a concern that the applicant was being kind of put off until the 27th, and so I don't know that and so all the materials were delivered and presented. I think it's really the opportunity, because the obligation, the burden is on the applicant to demonstrate that the standards are met. And so the standards for just helpfulness to the assembly are in the whereas clauses on the first and second page of the draft resolution. And so this resolution is still in draft, it hasn't been submitted. There's a schedule that is, so the matter has been scheduled for the 27th. This will be introduced on the agenda of the 13th, but was delivered and sent out because the city is under 21-day advance notice, and so we got it out well before the 21 days, just so Mr. Alexander would have the benefit of that. And then, so those are the standards, and as you indicated, the full packet contained exhibits, and the Assembly will be taking that under deliberation on the 27th. So this is sort of Mr. Alexander's time, as you pointed out, to do that. And then we thought that just to wrap up, we'd walk at the end of that presentation just to describe, because, and I'm sorry he's not here, but Mr. Starr had asked about what the standards are. And there are a lot of people, unlike yourself, that haven't sat with the Assembly when protest was considered. And so we brought the actual code sections from our code and from Title IV. I'll just kind of briefly walk through those afterwards.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tucker. So, Mr. Alexander, I know you haven't had a lot of time to prepare, but we'd like you to have the opportunity to either address some of the issues but based on the exhibit. And also, we may, of course, consider the chief of police is here, I recognize, and perhaps has some information that can offer to the body. And you certainly have time to then gather information that you might need to substantiate in the presentation on January 27th, when it comes back before the Assembly.
Okay, well, so my understanding is set for January 27th is because of the 21-day notice that we must give. Is that correct? And this is that right?
Yes.
And this is for the conditions, is that what we needed for on that date? Is that what's going to be presented to me?
It's where we deliberate as a body to continue the protest that was stated. We had a conditional protest at ABC based upon public hearing on what it is that, the reasoning, if you will, the basis for the protest. And you have to have a due process affords you the opportunity to answer the concerns, and a lot of the concerns are spelled out in the exhibits. Not to mention public testimony from neighbors and other businesses, and sort of, not to mention that we may have some information that we'll be able to gain from the police department, from police reports. All these things are spelled out under the standards that we have to make a basis of our decision for a protest on. So that it's not arbitrary and capricious, that we just aren't making something up, that it's all spelled out in standards. So.
Mr. Horner?
Yes, Ms. Tucker.
The documents that were filed with the ABC board were called conditional protests. And it wasn't that there were a list of conditions with them. The only condition there was to allow this process to take place.
As far as the ABC board, I understand that. I just thought that you guys were giving me, or Mr. Fink was planning rather, was supposed to give me some conditions based on what we would be discussing for the 27th of January. I understand we have some findings here today, but in light of that, we do not have any conditions, so I thought that was going to be part of having that prior to that. Which is why I thought the 27th, you know, I had my 21 days, he would give it to me, and by then, and then by the 27th, I would have, that would be the 21 days before you guys do your deliberations. So that's what I was just thinking.
One of the options available to the Assembly is a conditional non-objection to the transfer of the license based on update to the conditional use permit. That is to what Mr. Alexander, I believe, is referencing. I have been working on that as well. However, I am, well, we'll hear the presentation as to whether I think that's appropriate to introduce or whether moving forward with the protest is more appropriate.
So,
Right.
let's have you, if you would, Mr. Alexander, this is your time to present your responses to, or if you want to address this body as a Public Safety Committee.
I'll pass out my thing.
Did you have something to say?
Well, just for clarification, and this would be for Mr. Alexander, the only thing that's that's scheduled now and will be filed, or scheduled to be filed and come before the Assembly on the agenda for introduction on the 13th, and for hearing by the Assembly on the 27th is a protest. And so there's not a situation where it's something's yet before the Assembly with conditions of operation. So this is what's been filed is the protest. So, and I see you have that protest of liquor license by Assembly.
And do you have somebody representing you, Mr. Alexander?
Yes, I do. Tom here.
Tom Modio, here on behalf of Mr. Alexander for Josie for the presentation. I'm here to help him out. He needs help.
Mr. Alexander, is there anybody else that you intend to have speak on your behalf of this business?
There is Sharon Cho, who's running late.
Go ahead and proceed.
Based on Mr. Flynn's, and I guess several members, your findings, I want to just kind of talk about that and kind of address them. So I'm just going to, I'm assuming that you've all read what his findings were, so I'm just going to go to straight answering those findings that you have right there in front of you. The first finding incorrectly states that my business plan is insignificant to prove negative impact to the surrounding land use. This finding also seeks unfairly to hold me responsible for the problems, prior operations at the location, Platinum Jacks. I have no affiliations with Platinum Jacks or its prior business owners. I have owned and operated Tri-Grill restaurant for approximately 4 years, opening for lunch, dinner, and late night dining. Platinum Jacks business owners did not have experience of owning a restaurant, and it was just a trial basis that led their restaurant to failure. Recent printed media reviews of Tri-Grill have been very positive regarding the food, taste, and management appeal to the public. The other business ventures are very well maintained for the public appearance. None of them have received any notice of violation regarding noise, litter, or similar problems. Tri-Grill and LED Ultra Lounge at the new location will be well maintained at the same high standards. Regarding finding 2, although the public testimony given regarding the previous owner, accountability for not maintaining public appearance and nuisance issues may have some merit, though they have no bearing on me nor my proposed operation, the Tri-Grill and LED Ultra Lounge. I will be a prudent operator abiding by all municipal and ABC regulations. If any issues arise between my business and the public, I can assure you that they will be dealt with immediately. I understand that business in a partnership with the community. Although the findings also allege that failure to provide workers' compensation insurance is an indirect correlation to alcohol management training. This is incorrect. My past problems involving workers' compensation is simply irrelevant to my ability to successfully run a licensed establishment and sell alcohol. In any event, I now have workers' compensation insurance for all my business ventures. After being in business for approximately 20 years and maintaining workers' compensation, although I admit to some of what was stated in Exhibit F, there are numerous issues that are in dispute and inaccurate. This issue is under appeal in the court system. Findings number 3. And you don't have it, I got Exhibit 1. I think I got it here, but you guys might have a copy. But according to Exhibit 1, and I have some here, there was a partnership between Mr. Cho and myself. I agreed with Sharon Cho. My agreement with Sharon Cho was a restaurant portion only. According to Exhibit G, Sharon Cho has a management agreement for the alcohol portion of Fusions in the Grill with Mr. Cho. This agreement was in place for the past 4 years prior to my arrival into the business venture. Because of the violation from the ABC Board in regards of leasing the liquor license to Sharon Cho caused me to get involved due to the financial investment in the restaurant portion, at which time I put together a proper management agreement accepted by the ABC Board. Although they were punished and fined, it had nothing to do with me. Thus, the information in finding 3 is irrelevant to me in my proposed business plan. Finding number 4. With all due respect to the repeated mention of workers' compensation, I would like to state that with rapid business expansion and growth from a small business to a medium-sized business came with its shortfalls. I understand that the health and safety for paramount, which would be needed to recognize by any business owners that it's about to open an alcohol beverage establishment. I will maintain compliance with all state, local, and federal regulations to ensure health and safety of patrons and employees. This includes maintaining workers' compensation insurance. I do not believe the past compliance with workers' compensation insurance requirement provides any reason to uphold someone back from a business venture, especially with the amount of investment and preparation needed upfront before the application process to take ownership of a restaurant that sells alcohol beverages even begins. Although I admit some of what is stated in Exhibit F, there are numerous issues that are in dispute and inaccurate. As noted, this issue both is irrelevant to the proposed business venture and it is under appeal in the state court system. Number 5, findings 5. Regarding potential harm to the public's interest in the area of alcohol management, I have always followed alcohol management training provided by Anchorage Char. There are no alcohol violations or public safety issues regarding me by the ABC Board or Department of Public Safety. Secondly, the issues associated with the rapid growth of business have been overcome by employing additional staff, which will maintain all business records, including financial management. Thus, the issues set forth in findings 5 have been or will be properly addressed by the proposed business operation. Additional, I have been in previous public hearings where questions were asked pertaining Mr. Isidoro Martinez, which led to disposition from the hearing. Because of that disposition, I must be careful of what is being said in the public, including workers' compensation final order, which is also being appealed in the court system. There is a kind of, to talk about that a little more, there is a, supposed to be at 1:30 today, a deposition for Isidore, because that whole thing is going to court. It's partially criminal and civil. The guy that attacked him is facing criminal charges, I think, as he mentioned once. And he also Isidore elected to sue everyone that he could, including myself. So again, I want to be careful what I say regarding that. I do have copies of the deposition that's supposed to be going on currently right now, but this is more important to me than to be here. Same thing with the workers' compensation. It is also, I just want to be careful with what I say, because there are things that, again, that's not true in those findings. And I just want to be careful, so I want to elaborate on that. Sharon Cho is here. I'd like to have Sharon, I don't know if she should sit there or if she can speak from her position.
Can you speak loud enough so you can be heard? It's being recorded and there's someone on the phone. You can move the chair up closer if you need to. Or... And just while we're taking a brief pause, Ms. Gray Jackson did walk in during the middle of Mr. Alexander's presentation. We did at the beginning acknowledge that you Ms. Cho? Yes. Okay, if you could speak loud enough where the recording can hear you, as well as whoever's on the Mr. Fink is on the phone. Did you have a presentation or something you wanted to say on behalf of the matter before us?
First of all, I had the manager agreement from the Fusion. So originally, I had a 5 years agreement only I have from the Samovayan, which means Hong Yan Lee, the corporation. And I've been run myself for almost 4 years. Then I had a little bit financial problem between the time, and I asked Robert to run the restaurant part to come in to help me. And my portion was, whole portion was running the bar area and then liquor sales to the Hong Yan Lee. I do all the management. So the time, the kind of some happened, or it was my mistake, and then the advertisement things and.
Let me elaborate on that, if you'll let me. Part of what she's saying is, and I mentioned this before in one of the hearings, that Hong Yan Lee did the management agreement with Sharon, and they had a 5-year contract. She did 4 years of those, 4 years of the 5, asked me to come along to do the restaurant portion of things. When I came in, shortly after, the ABC board, apparently got the call of issues of advertisement of free champagne toast for New Year's. So that's what originally brought them in. when he came in and asked for a copy of the management agreement, they got a copy. The copy of the management agreement, according to the ABC board, was a lease agreement. And we all know you can't lease a liquor license. So ended up happening is I jumped on board at that time because I put a bunch of money into trying to renovate the inside of the building to make it pleasurable to come in and eat. And I spent money on the exterior. So I kind of jumped in when the ABC board had this problem, jumped on the management agreement with them so that I can help manage any problems that we might have along those lines, although keeping my fair share was the restaurant and hers was the bar. So at the end of the day, yes, the Hong and Lees were fined and punished for the leasing of the liquor license. It had nothing to do with me. I didn't share any part of that fine. My name was not on any part of that fine. And I think, again, what Sharon is saying is that, she is and had been from the time that I was there, the manager of the on the bar side of that venue. I think that's part of what you were saying there.
That's what I wanted to say, but
Mr. Steele had a comment or question.
So bringing you in on it is just to prevent something like the liquor license complaint of the free New Year's Eve champagne or whatever it was. So that was just to correct anything in the future you might do in that regard.
Yeah. Let me elaborate on that a bit more. Mr. Hamilton, Joe Hamilton of the ABC board, options were to pull the license because they were releasing it. And so I kind of fought back, and we were able to keep the license with these penalties and fines. So, but just the pure fact that he was trying to take the liquor license, it scared me because, I think that would go hand in hand with the restaurant business. And I just spent a bunch of money in it. So I wanted to be a part of what went forward and helping the decision making going forward at that point in time. If you follow me.
Yeah, so it kept them out of trouble on that particular issue, I presume, or maybe it didn't. But it cleaned up the arrangement such that if you did that in the future, you would be covered because it was clear that they were, or that you were added in, I guess, at that point
Right.
into the management. Is that?
That is correct. That is correct.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Alexander, I believe when you appeared before us earlier this month, you mentioned that you had employed the firm Ernoff and Coffee to help with the ABC board matters.
That is correct.
Did you ask them to represent you in this transfer process?
No, I haven't.
You have not?
No, I haven't. I put a phone call into Sherman, but Sherman's out of town.
So you employed Mr. Emilio?
That's correct.
And I believe you also said we were discussing this matter previously, that you were involved in the hiring of the staff that did alcohol service bartenders.
I mentioned to you that I was...
Could I get you guys to speak into the microphones if you have them?
We just have a conference phone, a speaker phone, Mr. Fink, sorry. We'll do the best to try to speak up.
that I was involved in the hiring part of that, because those same people that served alcohol was also the same people that would serve food. So I had somewhat of a say-so in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bosco.
Okay, I apologize because I can't speak up. But I know, everybody loves it at this moment. One of my concerns, and I made it clear, I think, previously, and I don't need an answer today. This isn't supposed to be a place for debate, but I want you to think about it and come back. And I want, this will have to be answered for me before I would affirmatively vote for this transfer. Considering the allegations of violence with respect to this contracted security staff, the need to conform to the character of the area, I want to know what steps you are going to take specifically to address public safety within and around the establishment. And that includes accountability for any contracted security staff. So those are things that I want you to think about. I don't need an answer right now, but I want a very specific one, because it's not good enough for me just to say, well, they're contracted. They're not actually my staff. That's not good enough.
I'll give you an answer now.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm aware that the ABC board, and they do a little different, you guys might know, but they take any contract, as far as a liquor license, anyone that is an agent is considered basically an employee. I'm responsible. I understand that very clear. And yet, the company that I hired is a respectable company and has been, and I'm not sure how many years Mr. Anderson has been in business. And I would love to keep him on my security team. What we have in place is, and I kind of mentioned that, I think it's in my proposal, I'm not sure what exhibit that is, but that we do have at least 40 cameras throughout the building, inside and outside. On days, which will be on weekends, where people do come out more, and so if people come out more, we're going to have more people, we need more security. So during that time period, we'll have at least 12 to 15 security people, 2 of which is operating around the exterior of the building to make sure that there is no looting, there is none of, that the people are coming to us are safe, that they're not littering, that they're not drinking out and doing maybe some of the things that people, or some of the complaints that was said, that was to Platinum Jacks. So when you come in, each of the staff members, to include the security guards, have a TAPS card, some of them the old one. Know the regular, know what needs to be done for anybody that actually comes in the building, because there is self-alcohol. We have a system that's called ID Tag. This system, when a person comes in the front door, and this is again only on those real busy days that we might have, when you walk into the door, this system, you would actually show your ID, which you need to because it's an alcohol establishment. You place that ID, that driver's license, in this electronic system, and then it spits out the information like you are of age, being here. It gives you the person's name, it takes your picture. This system is connected with bars and restaurants around the country, and I believe there's about 5 or 6 different companies here in Anchorage that has that same system. So we're linked together. So if there's a problem, if someone came here at my place and had a problem, we can note that system. When they go anywhere else, the system's going to tell us that this person is a problem. And it's up to them if they want to let them in, just the same as me. So again, we are, and to add, and I don't know, again, what Platinum Jacks, what kind of operations those guys ran for security. In fact, I'm not even sure they were a security member. I think they were more of hosts. So there's a difference between a host and a security guard. There's different, I think, state requirements, and Tony Anderson is here. Can elaborate more on that once I get done, if you will. But I take it serious. I myself is there looking like one of the security guards if it gets that busy. scan the rooms, and we do at the end of each night, or nights that we had, you know, a lot of people, the security guards that was there, we'd have a meeting, what we could have done better.
Can I follow up with one question?
Sure, and then Mr. Flynn had a question too.
So, if, for example, like, how do you handle it? I mean, I assume being a security guard in a bar, people complain that complain about you a lot. You know, they don't get their way, I'm sure. But at what level does it rise to your attention? So if somebody is complaining that a bouncer was violent with them, I'm assuming the manager would find out. I mean, what is your processes in order to ensure that the public is safe in your establishment and they're not being subject to over-aggressive bouncers?
We have a rule, we have a no-touch policy. Cannot touch anybody unless they become aggressive. Then you have to touch them. You have to restrain that person. You may have to handcuff them, depending on how fast that person was. And it has happened in the past where we had to do that. But we do have a no-touch policy. If the person feels that they have to touch that person, would immediately get me if I'm there. And second, they would get Tony Anderson, the owner of the company, before anybody's touched. Typically, a lot of times, there's no reason to touch people. You know, you tell them you gotta go, you know, they may not wanna go for another 5 or 10 minutes. As long as they're not, you know, way out of whack, where you actually have to, restrain that person, they're gonna leave. So, you know, it's important to me. You know, I don't want myself getting into, you know, incidents where we had to touch somebody and now it just went crazy. And then, you know, who knows, anyone could get hurt, including myself. So I'm real big on that.
Mr. Flynn?
I'll wait till Mr. Anderson's.
Mr. Anderson, did you have anything you needed to add about the security company or requirements that you have for your staff?
I don't know if I had anything to ask, but first of all, let me say my name is Antonio Anderson, for those who don't know. Owner and operator of North Star Security Agency. Whatever questions you have, just ask and I'll show an answer for you. I think he pretty much answered most of your questions. First and foremost for security, the difference, because I'm hearing this a lot, and I had this conversation with Char and Downtown Partnership. I think the difference that people don't understand between security and host is a big difference. Security guard or a security company has to go through a criteria through the state in order to even be issued a security guard license. We have to give a curriculum, you have to have insurance, and you have the business license. When we do that, then we have to send the guards to training. And you have conflict resolution. You have all type of different type of scanner search, observation, and things of that nature. And the club is different because you're dealing with the most passive and aggressive people you could ever meet because of alcohol relations. But our job is to make sure that everyone in the club is comfortable. It's hard to do that, but we can do it. The no-touch policy is real simple. No matter outrate or not outrate, my guards come to me first when they have a problem. If we have to remove someone, I go to the owner, which is Robert Alexander. Maybe he could talk them down. Maybe he can ask them to leave. Majority of times they do leave. But when someone gets outraged, we have to detain them. When we detain them, we don't throw them out. We put them in cuffs and call APD. Anytime our company or security guard puts anyone in handcuffs, APD has to be called because they are now being detained. We are restricting them from movement, and it could be just like, what you call the word, I'm trying to think of it. And help me, I'm trying to go too fast here.
Citizen's arrest.
Thank you. It's not a citizen's arrest, but if we don't do the proper citizen's arrest, it's like forcing someone and holding them hostage. You can't do that. So that's why we call APD and file a citizen's arrest form, PPA, Proper Personnel Property Protection Form. Having said that, we have 2 to 3 guards armed that's outside to monitor the parking lot, all the way around the building, which includes 3 things they do: observe, report, pick up trash and bottles that you have vagrants for people that walk the streets that drink alcohol and leave bottles in the parking lot. So we police those up. We ask people to keep their music down when they're coming down in that area of the part of the building. east and west of the building, you have a lot of residential areas. So people blast that music coming down there. It happens. I'm not gonna tell you it doesn't. So we go to them and ask them, please guys, can you turn your music down? Can you get further down the street, and what you do there, I can't control it, but please keep your music down while here, help us out. So we don't have no troubles with APD or with the assembly. They have no problem doing it. When they leave the building at 3 o'clock, we probably get them out and clear about 3:30. All of my guards go outside. Once the building's clear, we leave one guard inside. The rest of the 11 guards go outside and we monitor the parking lot. We make sure there's no fights. There's no arguments. There's nobody getting, no women getting jumped on. Nobody jumping on each other. Everybody going to their cars. If they drinking, we do not let them drive. We ask them to stop, not drive. Call a taxi cab. If they want to continue to drive, we just call a number in the APD. We have a person who's possibly drinking and driving. That's most we could do, because again, we can't make nobody do anything. But other than that, that's what we do. I hope that answers some of your questions.
Go ahead, if you got questions on security. Mr. Blunt, you do.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes, sir.
You said you have 12 guards,
Yes.
and there was a media account that indicated that some of them are armed
Yes.
with firearms.
Yes.
How many carry firearms?
3,
Three.
which includes myself.
And do you provide security at other evening establishments?
I have.
You have?
Yes, sir.
But you don't right now? This is the only one, or?
Yes, right now. Well, actually, in the office lounge, I do a walk through and around check with office lounge too. Yes, sir.
That's over on North Lake, right?
Yes, sir.
And what sort of background checks do you conduct on your security staff?
My background checks is irrelevant. The reason I tell you that because for a person to carry a firearm is background check to the state. If the state doesn't license them, they can't carry it. So the state of Alaska does a background check for them and requires them.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Maybe you didn't ask my question correctly.
Okay.
I think what you were answering was, what kind of background checks do you do on the people who carry? Was that what your answer was to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. For your unarmed staff?
Same thing. The same goes to the state because they both carry a card that looks like this. Bear with me for a moment. I have a lot of cards. You pass this around. This is an armed card. For unarmed guard, they carry the same card. It's green, and it says unarmed. That's the difference between a security guard and a host. The state gives them that card. It does not come from me. It means they do their background check.
And since you're in the business, do you know of any other nightclubs that provide armed security staff?
Do I know of any that has provided, or have I done it?
I was asking if you know of any other establishments currently offer that
No,
have armed security.
no, sir. Majority of security companies, and I've been with a lot of them, do not do club security because it is a liability. Because a guard can get hurt at any given time. Whether it's a tussle, whether it's an argument, whether it's someone just throwing a rock at them, hitting them in the head, it's a liability.
I'm going to add something to that if I can for a moment. The guards that carry firearms, mostly of those are outside. We want those guys to be safe. We want people to know that don't try anything because, you know, it may not work for you. So, but those guys do come inside as well.
Mr.
Yeah, my comment, Mr. Anderson.
Yes, sir.
You said you provide part-time or you do walkthroughs at the office?
At the office lounge.
Is that as a result of the problems that they have had with violence outside, or is that, or were you there at that time?
Okay, well, I'll answer this politically as correct as possible. Prior to the owner you have now, which is Mr. Patrick Mosley, you had two other owners. I think it was Victor and Keisha, very good owners. They took over the office lounge, I think, from Tank Jones and a few people a couple of years ago. And they had an issue because the type of music they play draws a lot of crowd that rap music, to be honest with you. So when it's played a certain way or certain loud, it turns people off, especially when you're drinking. This can cause some problems because they have their issues and they want to take them outside. When they call me, because majority of the people in the rap industry or local industry or as far as music know who I am. So when they see my security company come on scene, they know that we don't tolerate a lot of BS. Either go home or we call APD, you go to jail, or we prefer you go home. We don't allow them to sit in the cars and what we call, the term they use, parking lot pimping. Meaning you sit in the car looking for women to come by and whistle at them or smoke your weed or whatever they want to do. You do that somewhere else. So that's the reason why they call me to come out of the parking lot.
So as a result, if I can, so it was as a result of the issues they were having, not the fact that you were there prior to it. Is that a safe statement? You came on, you started working for them after they started having the problems?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Mr. Peterson. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to go back to something that you mentioned you have about this new security system where you scan their
Yes.
driver's license and it gives you a readout of what maybe some past problems they might have had.
When you mean the past problems, is that each club that has that system is linked to everyone that gets that system. For example, we had 5 personnel that came into the club last weekend that was barred from Chilcoots. So when it reads up on the system, we run the scan the card, it reads the ID, tells the date of birth, how old they are. Then a red line comes on like you have on your ID card when it says you can't have alcohol. Okay? And it says they've been barred from Chilcoot Charters. So the first thing I did was ask the gentlemen and ladies, it looked like you've been barred from Chilcoot. What was the problem? Because they weren't drunk. First thing we looked at is pupil dilation, alcohol on the breath, things of that nature before we allow someone to come in. They didn't have any of those red flags. So I asked them what was the problem, because I don't know what happened in Chilcoot. So it's his discretion or mine whether we allow them to come in. You know what I'm saying? Because there's already a red flag off the bat. They said, well, it was about a month ago. So right there they didn't lie, because it was about a month ago. They could have said, well, we ain't been in Chilcoot in 6 months. And I'm looking at here and see you've been barred just 30 days ago. You can't come in, you just lied. But they did. So they elaborated a little bit about the problem they had. I said, okay, well, do me a favor. Please adhere to the rules. Enjoy yourself. Please don't have me come and have to escort you out. If you escort out here, you can't come back here no more. Not a problem, Mr. Anderson. We'll go right on in. And they're going to enjoy themselves. So that's how that works.
Well, if I can follow up on that, I don't know if anyone has this information or not, but did Platinum Jacks have a similar system that they were using?
They got it towards the very end. So we had the same system at another location, which is actually tagged into theirs, same company. They got it theirs, I think, around the February time frame before they went out. And I can tell you what he told me, by having it made a tremendous difference of people coming in, because they know who you are. You know, we take pictures, we know exactly what you have on, if you need, you know, the APD needs to catch up with you, you know. So what he told me is it made a tremendous difference in having that system. And I believe it does. It does for us. I can't say that we won't have any issues inside, but we do run a tight ship, you know, when we get that many people in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Before we get off of the security questions, I just want to add something else to it. You asked your question, but ask your questions first, but then I just want to
Mr. Trainee and Ms. Johnson.
Question, Mr. Alexander, you, on this second sheet, you said your workman's comp issue is under appeal with the state court system. When did you file that appeal?
The appeal was filed It has to be done within 30 days
From the 10th of October?
of the big part.
From the 10th of October?
Yeah,
So when did you file it?
I think that's when, within 30 days of the actual, let's see here, picture exactly here.
You don't have that readily available, we'll just continue with questions, and you can
Yeah,
always.
it would have been a couple months ago, somewhere in that nature, somewhere around there.
Two more questions, Ms. Johnston and Ms. Tripp.
Just kind of interested on the security system. Has there been any legal challenges to it? The fact that you're walking in, taking pictures, and it's going online. I mean, are you familiar with it, Chief? Have you used it?
Well, I'm aware that the system exists and that more and more bars are starting to use it. I don't see any legal issues there at all.
I was just thinking, I mean, if a follow-up arrest because of
Where the legal issues might come in is if the police department someday wants into that database to make a
Right.
case.
Yeah, I'm just kind of. That's
Then the bar owner or the restaurant owner has a decision to make. Is he or she going to surrender that stuff or require us to get a search warrant for it? And that would be up to the establishment to decide how to respond to that. I mean, they would be within their rights to give it up, but they would also be within their rights to withhold it and require us to get a warrant.
It's interesting. I understand it's a matter of choice. You don't want to have your picture taken if you don't want to go into the system.
I think the courts would probably say that, in most public places, you don't have an expectation of privacy. You don't in a mall, you don't on a street corner, you don't in a bar. If you were trying to do this in a doctor's office or something like that, then, the legal issues probably change a bit, but.
Thank you.
Ms. Tripp.
Mr. Alexander, with respect to the workers' comp appeal, since it's been, whatever you filed as far as the appeal is already as a public document, would it be any problem for you to provide that to
The appeal?
Yeah, the appeal, whatever you filed.
I have a copy here, several copies.
That'd be great, because to be honest with you, the workers' comp stuff that I saw, the determination, not good. It really shows a kind of sustained business method of ignoring rules and regulations over a period of time. And if there are things that you've alleged are wrong with that, it would certainly be helpful for us to see what they are.
I'll find it here, but if you want to ask me some questions, I can answer some of them, but it depends, some things I just want to be careful of.
While you're looking for that, the one question that I would ask is, I see the operating agreement under exhibit, I believe it is I. Double check just to make sure.
This is up here,
that was submitted, and it talks about video cameras, and my question would be, do you intend to have, like the security, will they have a video? I can tell you that in Chilkoot Charlie's, if ever there's an incident where someone's getting unruly, being asked to leave for whatever reason, they actually put one of their personnel, whether it's a staff, bar back, a bar employee, or host, or whoever actually carries a video camera to basically record the conversation. Do you intend to do that? Do you intend to have video recordings on your security officers or in and around both interior and exterior of the building? So those are questions that you may not have the answer for today.
I can help for that. As far as the interior of the building is pretty much covered. The outside, yes, they will have, I will be getting cameras for an individual to, especially address the situation, to videotape the whole situation.
Well, they're in place now.
No, as far as outside, and we have to.
Like when you're
Like
confronting
typically,
an
they
individual.
manually have someone video it when we're taking care of altercation. Yes, that will take place.
I'm just going to take, even though it's not necessarily on the agenda, I would ask the chief of police, I know Mr. Bosky as well, asked the chief to do some research, and I know that you have some information. I see you have a folder, Chief. Did you have information that you would be able to share with us today, whether it be specific or overall view agenda?
I've begun to do the research. I've gotten some draft information. For a time this week, I thought I'd be handing it out at this meeting, but a couple of things that have gotten in the way of that. One is I'm confused by a couple of the things that the crime analyst put in there, and he's on vacation these last few days, and I haven't been able to get him in the office to resolve it. And I don't want to put out something that I don't thoroughly understand. And also, your counsel has advised me that what I need to do is submit this through the clerk's office by a date in January 6th, was it? 6th?
Yes, to
5th?
5th, to the clerk's
And
office.
through the clerk's office, then it'll become public and it gets noticed for the 21 days and you get it, everybody else gets it. And so I think there's a process thing there that I need to follow. So I'm looking at drafts. I think I need to scrub a little bit more, but we're close.
Mr. Alexander, do you have that information? Or?
She's getting copies.
Okay, very good. If there's nothing further, no one else, Mr. Alexander?
I do.
Summary?
I assume that you guys have a copy, and it's one of the exhibits, of somewhat of what my business plan is. So you have this large building, and half of it is, approximately half of it is Tri-Grove. It's going to be open for lunch and dinner. It'll probably close around 11-ish. On the other side is the LED Ultra Lounge, which will open up at 4, and it will close at bar hours. Bar hours closing at, depending whether it's 2:30, 3 o'clock, what have you. Attached to that business plan is a menu that is probably one of the largest menu of food in any restaurant that I've been to. The majority of what we do is, we're going to sell food on the LED side until approximately 1:30 in the morning, sometimes later, every day that we open. That's our main focus, is to get people in. It's not necessarily just the alcohol. So that is every day of the week, but now on Fridays and Saturdays, again, as I mentioned, people come out, more people come out. And they come out, they have a good time, and they want music, so we turn up the music, and we do this and that. So it's not that it's, only on Fridays and Saturdays where we would have armed guards. We're not going to have that through all that we do on Mondays through Thursdays, let's say. Certainly not on the restaurant side. Now, on the restaurant side, we have and will continue to do offer Latin dancing for that community. They were there in the past, and we welcome them back. And that is after restaurant hours on the weekends only. Otherwise, that side of the building will be closed. So I don't see, we use this term nightclub, I don't really see myself, based on what I'm saying here, as I'm a nightclub. Although we do offer, we will turn up the music because more people come out. Man, now we might look like a nightclub. But I don't consider Tri-Grill or I don't consider LED a nightclub. Just don't. If we had a smaller building, maybe we'll look like somebody that's not a nightclub. Maybe somebody like F Street Station. I don't know if you consider them as a nightclub. It's a very small place. But in this case, unfortunately, we can get 100 times more people than they can because we have a larger facility and because we got more people coming in. Does that make us a nightclub? I don't see it as a nightclub. So, and part of the problem with that I understand is with Platinum Jacks is that they try to do a full-on restaurant, maybe with some nightlife in the beginning, and on the weekends as well. And they didn't anything. They couldn't do the restaurant business. They stopped, and for several reasons. One, the place is just too big just to have a restaurant by itself and operate. As I mentioned before, even national chains restaurants only looks for 6,000 and 7,000 square foot buildings. This building is twice the size of that. And so for me to offer or welcome more people to come in my place on Friday and Saturday so that it helps balance that, the more income I can make, the better. It is not just necessarily selling liquor, or to the people. That's how I'm making my money. I want as many, just like anybody business, you want as many people as you can possibly get in your doors. That's why we do what we do. So I just don't see myself, and I'm asking you guys not to determine this place as just a nightclub. It's not just a nightclub. That's what I want to say.
Is there anybody that you have yet you comment about this particular protest?
I'm sorry, sir.
I know you have some people here with you. Is there anybody that you wanted to have present something that I want you to have the opportunity? Have you had anybody here that's to present information regarding this protest? Have you had everybody present? Mr. Joe is here, Mr. Anderson.
Yes, I think so.
All right. Moving to item 4 and review of the standards. Mr. Tucker, if you would help us interpret a better interpretation of the standards governing the protest. I should pause just 1 second. Is there anybody that had any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
I actually had a couple of questions.
Yes.
Before we got into it, because I wasn't sure, and maybe all the assembly understands this and I don't, but what the difference, if any, there is between the current hours and the proposed hours on this establishment? And also, how does the business plan that's proposed differ from the operation now? Were those things that you have information on? Because that might be helpful in the evaluation. So have those questions been asked by others and answered to everyone's satisfaction?
I see where you're going, Ms. Tucker, and I don't have the actual initial ordinance in front of us that did the business plan that was filed with the planning department. Mr. Alexander, are the hours that you have on your business model, are they consistent with what you posted in your application?
No, my question is, I thought that Mr. Alexander was operating that facility now under an agreement. I'm just wondering, and on behalf of the assembly, what if there's any difference between the current hours of operation and the proposed hours of operation? I'm assuming that his business plan is consistent with what he's proposed to the ABC board.
We got, let me try to explain this to you. The restaurant, the portion is not open. Now, again, I consider this as kind of like Fusions. The biggest thing is the restaurant. So when Tri-Grill opens and everything is in line, with you guys' blessing as well, once we get the restaurant open, then we're going to consider ourselves open. So right now, if you go there anytime today, anytime tomorrow, we're not open. Okay, we still got equipment that's tied in now. You know, I have like cooks in training that are going to actually, the cooks that are at the other location, Tri-Grill, will be going downtown, so these new guys are being trained for that. Once those guys get trained, we're going to open, and it'll be a restaurant. It'll be the hours that is proposed in my business plan. And what I mentioned earlier.
But currently, are you operating under a management agreement?
That is correct. And we do some things on the weekends, but it is under a management agreement, under the hours that I mentioned, I said earlier.
Are they consistent with the hours listed in your proposed operation plan? I'm guessing it's
consistent. It's bar hours. I think that's what I put on the proposed. On the weekend. On the weekends, we close at 2:30 to 3 o'clock.
So is the non-restaurant part that's open now, is it only open on weekends?
Until we consider ourselves open, that is correct.
Do you cater or hold any special events for any other groups?
Oh, yeah.
On the off nights?
Yeah. We have. Yes, we have. but it is probably once or twice. You know, it's not something we're doing on a daily basis. I think, you know, that, well, I think it's around the corner that the hours that I have here in my business plan is going to be exactly just what I have here, like nothing different.
Is that
Thank
helpful?
you.
That helpful? Okay.
Questions have come my way on that, and I am happy that that's on the record here. So, Mr. Honeman, we have some documents in the packet for today, and those include, under the municipal code, the standards that are in English Municipal Code 2.30.125, and those are standards governing assembly protests to State Alcohol Beverage Control Board. And then also before you in copy are the standards, or an additional set of standards that are found in the Alaska Administrative Code, which is part of the in Title III, Chapter 304, part of the ABC board regulations, and that's 3 AAC 304, Section 180, and that governs public interest standards, and so that's for the denial, suspension, revocation, or refusal to renew or transfer in the public interest. And so we can take those, that set from the ABC board first. And these are standards that in Section A are set out for the ABC board, where they judge the public interest. And then subsection B of that says the grounds on which a local governing body may properly protest an application under AS 0411-480 include the grounds set out in A of this section. So is everybody with me on that? And so
Does
these...
everybody have the AAC code? Okay, thank you.
So these are you know, set out fairly self-explanatory, and just are to guide and help the local governing body and the ABC board members to look at the public interest in particular.
Ms. Tucker? Quick question. Under the AAC, the 3 AAC 304, A1A, capital A, an act that constitutes a crime involving moral turpitude. Can you help? I know sometimes it's a bit.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's a good question. So, an act that constitutes a crime involving moral turpitude. The phrase "a crime involving moral turpitude" is sort of a term of art. We've seen it in other code sections. It's sort of an old-fashioned term, and it generally means things that are egregious in a significant extent. So the last time that the Assembly looked at this was, this phrase was concerning licensing of the ice cream carts. And so one of the things that came up was that when, in terms of what would disqualify somebody from being an ice cream cart vendor, would we use the term a moral turpitude, or would it be more specific than that, because that's kind of a general word? So generally, crimes of moral turpitude are at the felony level, and then sometimes they are even discrete within the felony level. So that's the most I can give you on that, because it's sort of a, yeah, and it may be that the code here, and I didn't check that, it may be that the chapter 304 includes a definition for what the code considers to be a matter of moral turpitude. That's my general explanation from code to code. Mr. Evans, you're in this practice. Would you have any other things to add on that?
Should we just go to a thesaurus or a dictionary to?
Black's Law Dictionary will define moral turpitude. Basically, it's crimes involving things that everybody agrees are wrong: violence, dishonesty, stealing, sexual crimes, things of that nature. Not technical violations that may be criminal but don't have that moral baggage with it.
Questions? Comments? Okay. A follow-up, Mr. Tucker, if I might. Same code, section 2. Whether the applicant, the applicant's affiliates, the transferee, or the transferee's affiliates are untrustworthy, unfit to conduct a business, a licensed business, or potential source of harm to the public. And I suspect that's the catch-all in trying to be objective rather than subjective. Is there anything that you can help us guide this body?
You know, I think that that's applied on a case-by-case basis, and remember that these are things that are all under public interest. And so, as you said, kind of a case, kind of a catch-all. I actually sent today, because we may have some guidance available from the ABC board on how they have applied it. So I did send a note for that, but because online there wasn't a resource that helped at the ABC level with that, but in practice they may have items that they can identify where that standard has been applied and where it's been found not to apply. But otherwise, it's a catch-all, as you said.
Anything else, Ms. Tucker?
So why don't we turn to the standards that the Assembly has? And again, this one in section 180 deals with specifically items of public interest. When we go to the standards in 231.25, those are broken down, as you see, to separate considerations that the Assembly looks at, and here my understanding is that the look is triggered and has been triggered initially because of this location, as it was when Platinum Jacks opened. So you had a change, and it's not. As this applicant has pointed out, he's farther down the chain, but for the Assembly's purposes, the same inquiry happened when the location was transferred from being a large restaurant with a bar license to Platinum Jacks. And at that time, the Assembly went through, in terms of looking at the duplicate licenses, went through a scrutiny about this, and then actually modified restated the conditional use to incorporate some additional features that were to address the items that are under this list. And as the Assembly knows, that worked out for a while and then didn't work out for a while. So these are the factors. So one thing that the Assembly looks at, and sometimes they have heard from the Chief of Police and others, on whether the the license there will impact the community through an increase in the concentration of uses involving the sale and service of alcoholic beverages within the area affected, and whether it will conform to the standards that are in Title 21. So sometimes the things that come up under this are parking. That's a big one. Does it bring in more challenges to neighboring properties because of parking or lack thereof? So that's on the land use, and then the concentration side of it can be not just, it's sort of, the way that I look at it is that all conditional uses for alcohol are not created equal, even if they're beverage dispensary licenses. So the Assembly looks at, in general, the concentration of that type, whether it's package store or dispensary, and then between the dispensary, what kind of operation is there. So then training, and the Assembly's talked about that quite a bit today. You have training standards. Our code still talks about the TAM cards, and I don't have too much to add about that. Operations procedures, whether the applicant can demonstrate prospective or continued compliance with operations procedures for licensed premises, and some of those procedures are set forth in another section of code under 1050. Public safety, this is under transfer of ownership of a beverage dispensary license. The Assembly shall consider whether the operator can demonstrate the ability to maintain order and prevent unlawful conduct in the licensed premises, and determining the operator's ability there. The Assembly considers, and that's where you have the police reports, you have the testimony, written comments, other evidence deemed to be reliable and relevant. The term licensed premises shall include any adjacent area under the control and management of the licensee. So that also for establishments that come with parking or have made arrangements for parking lots, that includes the parking lots that are under their control. Payment of taxes and debts, that's part of the scrutiny that goes on, whether the applicant is delinquent in payment of taxes owed to the municipality, whether the municipality has received payment, adequate security for that. And then that, I think that covers the standards. You have requirements about notice. There appears to be a readily identifiable pattern of practice of reoccurring violence or unlawful conduct. Then the municipality can notify the licensee and review different plans. There's security, more provisions on security for the payment of debts and taxes. And then in H, there's public health, and this is the one that has, that the Assembly shall consider whether the operator has engaged in a pattern of practices injurious to public health or safety. And then they give some examples there. Other actions within the control, knowledge and control of the operator which place the public health at risk. Some guidance on what the Assembly is to consider. Consider criminal convictions, credible proof of illegal activity, even if it's not prosecuted. Police reports, testimony presented before the Assembly, written comments submitted prior to or during the public hearing, and other evidence deemed to be reliable and relevant.
Mr. Evans.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Would it be possible for us before January 27th to get an opinion from council as to whether or not Mr. Alexander's problems with workers' comp would fall under this definition. I certainly can't tell by looking at it, but a legal opinion would be helpful.
Mr. Trent? Dee, can you give us that legal opinion? You're the one representing us in court. All deference to Julia, but this is the one that goes to court for us. So can you give us that definition?
Whether the workers' comp fits within these standards.
Yeah, whether the problems Mr. Alexander's had with workers' comp would be a disqualifying condition under Section H of the code.
Or if you look on 304-180A2, where it talks about unfit to conduct a licensed business. See if that workman's comp issue might fit in there. If you don't mind.
I'm sorry, I have a late breaking question for Mr.
Sure.
Anderson. Mr. Anderson, Mr. Alexander referenced that there's some litigation, criminal, civil, with someone who I presume was one of your employees?
Yes.
Okay. Passed that background check?
Yes.
He did. And he's still in your employ?
What I can say, without violating confidentiality, is that he had no criminal history at all. His background went through the NCIC. I was told at your last assembly, it was said that he had a criminal history. I don't know, I wasn't at the meeting at the time, but he did not.
So you passed the security, is he still in your employee?
I will hold that thought at this time about that situation.
Follow up on that.
Yes, Mr. Bus.
Maybe I'm commingling events, but I thought one of the charging documents one of the documents that I saw from the state courthouse said that one of these individuals was on probation.
No one that's with me is on probation. He was not on probation.
I was reading the notes.
The gentleman the gentleman in question had just got here to the state. So we had to do that background because he came from different states.
Ms. Tucker?
I would like to just revisit for a second Mr. Evans's request and just sort of talk about this. As I understand it, he's asked for an opinion about whether the workers' comp situation would disqualify. And I think that the question should be whether it's a factor that the Assembly may consider, because all of these factors would be ones that you want to look at to be considered, and I don't think that putting it in terms of whether it would be a disqualification would be exactly right. Does that make sense, Mr. Evans?
Yeah, somewhat. I think the actual question I want to have answered is whether or not Mr. Alexander's issues with workers' compensation would constitute committing serious violations of state law relevant to public health or safety or other actions within the knowledge and control of the operator which place the public health or safety at risk. I guess what I'm asking for, is there any evidence that workers' comp issues have been used in that context before, or would fall under that, even if it's just analogous to something else you might find?
I might follow up with, and it may be of help, and I'm not sure if it opens up more of a bigger bucket of worms, but somebody, whether it's municipal attorneys or assembly council, perhaps check with ABC Board and see if they have a case precedent that fits within that realm.
I can only say that the officers ironically named Alcohol Beverage Control Board actually did raise an eyebrow when they found this.
Yes, Ms. Grayjack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since we're on the workers' compensation issue, I think it was Mr. Evans that asked for a copy of the appeal, and I think the reason was, and not conversion, correct me if I'm wrong, was to get some idea of what was being appealed. Correct?
Correct, that's what I was hoping for.
Right. But what we have doesn't say anything. In terms of that. Maybe you can't state it, but this doesn't address that. Thank you.
If it's before an appeal, you may not want to send it.
I'd rather not. I mean, I got, like I said, I have documents right here. It's, you know, from the last time, it's in depth, you know, I got.
Mr. Tracy.
So,
Judge, what you sent us here is just a request for an extension of time, but did you file an appeal by the 24th of November?
I did.
Is that a public document?
I suspect it is. This is.
You what?
I guess that it is.
Could you give us a copy of what's in the file?
We'll
You
check
know,
the appellate file.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See what's been filed.
Yeah.
If we can all get a copy of that, that'd be helpful. Anything else? Ms. Bridges?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else? Ms. Tucker, anything further? Okay. So we are at member comments, and we're right about, just about before 2:30 hour. I have an appointment at 3. I need to drive to about quarter till, so I think turn it over to go beyond that. Any other comments from the members? Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think one piece of information that came out today that I wasn't aware of before, that I think may help your situation is that you do have the new electronic system where you're scanning their driver's licenses to check for troublemakers when they first come in the door. So, and I really think that's, having been in the hospitality industry for the majority of my career, I can tell you that tool would have been something I would have loved to have had about 30 years ago. And so I think the fact that Platinum Jacks got that late and only got to use that the last few months they were in operations probably didn't help them as much as if they had gotten it a couple of years earlier. So I think by using that system, you could actually hopefully prevent situations from occurring by stopping it at the door. So I think that's an important point that I wanted to bring up.
Ms. Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fortunately, I had an opportunity to read all this late last night. And one of the questions that I had last night, and I'm bringing it up right now, is Exhibit C. Unless I missed something, all the violations are in regard to Platinum Jacks. So I'm kind of wondering what it has to do with Mr. Alexander's position. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Other than the fact that it's the same location, but if the violations are Platinum Jacks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Flynn?
Part of the standard is a history of inappropriate behavior at a specific geographic location. That was the nature of that.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I can follow up. So, Mr. Flynn, the reason why Exhibit C is here is because it's geographically the same location. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Flynn.
Ms. Tucker, anything to add on that?
No.
Any other member comments? Okay, I'd like to close then by my comments by just saying what I'd like to see, and this may be helpful, of course. Chief Mew has committed that you will be presenting the police reports and its descriptive detail best you can come up with by timeline.
What I thought I was asked to do was provide an analysis of bar activity downtown and a before and after look at the property in question, before and after being before and after we changed hands from Platinum Jacks to LEDs, et cetera, and as well as looking at fusions. That's what I think I was asked to do. I don't remember being asked to produce police reports. That can be done, and if that's your request, then I can start working on that.
I think it would be helpful if we could get at least a synopsis of if it was a criminal charge versus someone calling in for a traffic stop. You know, you could describe a police contact saying, I'm on a traffic stop near Platinum Jacks, which would be a common location, I would imagine, versus someone from Platinum Jacks called and said, there's a problem here, can the police get here quick? Or a citizen saying, hey, the bar's out of control, there's a fight, and there's a lot of... So I think those things would be helpful. Ms. Gray-Jackson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief Mew, did I hear you say that what you were asked to do was to look at fusion and
Can you repeat that?
What I thought I was asked to do was three things, essentially. Look at a chunk of time that would be the last portion of Platinum Jacks and the first portion, or up to date, of Mr. Alexander's operation. Equivalent time, so we get apples to apples as best we can, and see if the property got better or worse after we changed hands. That was task one. Task two, look at the activity for a sampling of downtown bars, just to see what the average kind of activity looks like, so that you could look at whatever that before and after picture in task one looks like, and how does that match up with some other bars downtown, better or worse. And then finally, take a look at what's going on at Fusions. Give us some data on Fusions. Okay, so that's all summary data. It's it's bar charts, it's graphs, it's things like that. What I'm hearing now is maybe you want specific calls for service information, like a listing of call types, or a synopsis of each police report, or something of that nature.
I think it'd be helpful for members, unless I'm hearing otherwise, it'd be helpful if, for instance, an assault could be a patron assaulted another patron, or it could be that they're alleging that a member of the bar or owner of the bar assaulted a patron. I think it would be important at least to have a distinguishing.
So would you like that for what business for what time period?
Mr. Alexander, if I might follow up, when was your management operating agreement? When did that commence? If you have to get back to us.
My guess is it would have probably been in the part of July area time frame. Although
we picked the third week of July as a tipping point, the before and after point.
That would be sufficient.
That may not be perfect, but it's within a few days based on newspaper articles and some other research we did.
So July to present would be helpful? Any difference? And at that specific location, I think would be very helpful.
I think we can do that without much problem.
And then further, Mr. Alexander, what I'd like to see, I think for the rest of the body, if you could submit it through the municipal clerk's office, your response to the, now you have the Title II, 3 AAC, anything that may or may not be, you have things that we have to deliberate on, could be aggravating the circumstance or diminishing or mitigating, if you will. So anything that might be more favorable to you that you can answer is to, for instance, taxes. It may be a no-brainer. I'm up to date on taxes at all of my locations that I play, never been delinquent, blah, blah, blah. So something that
Title II.
The Title II, did you get a copy of the standards that we have to consider to deliberate?
I don't have that yet.
Okay, we'll get you a copy of that.
Okay.
Title II, 3120, 23125, that's AFC, and then AAC, the 3 AAC for the state statute. So if you could just maybe summarize that, and any details that you have presented, now you have a chance to have us ask some questions. And if you think you need to help further explain something like, and I would caution you, of course, not before the courts, because obviously you've got issues you've got concerns.
That's true, but ex parte contact.
Okay. And Ms. Tucker, I understand we all have to be very careful about ex parte contact now. This is before the body considering use.
Yes.
Meaning
Mr. Alexander and Assemblymember Gray Jackson's suggestion, Mr. Alexander, Trina Johnson, and Matt Fink each got a copy of what went to the Assembly, and we talked to the municipal attorney's office about this, and so all private contact between those parties and Assembly members is prohibited under that ex parte rule in this situation.
And that was at the time of the delivery of the protest information?
Well, we looked at it, and the conditional protest that was delivered to the ABC board would trigger that.
All right, we're at the point on the agenda, if nothing further, audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make a comment? Sir, you have 3 minutes.
I have
Can you
some.
identify your name, please?
My name is Isidoro Martinez, and I was the victim of the assault by NSA as an employee. I have petitioned the prosecutor's office, and they are working diligently with my civil attorneys and the prosecutors to produce you guys with a full, detailed video of what transpired the night of my attack, with all of the violations, the overpouring of alcohol, the serving till well into 3:30 a.m. These are all factual. I will never stand before you. I'm a business person. I would never put my name out on the line to tell you lies. This will all come out to light, whether in civil, criminal, or now. This man before you has worked for Office Lounge for years and was part of the problem. He's been with the Office Lounge for years. For him to sit here and act like he was a resolution of the problem, that is all data, that is all discoverable. He is also clearly seen on the videotape as the owner of NSA Security, the respectable security company, trying to attack me from behind. It's clear on the video. He too was intoxicated and trying to attack me violently too. He has been involved in many, many, many altercations where over abuse has been. The machine at Platinum Jacks was actually installed by Platinum Jacks, acquired from them. They had been using it for, I would like to say, a couple of years before. It wasn't just the tail end. Okay, it wasn't the tail end, and it was acquired by Platinum Jacks. So all these little things of security that they're trying to say, I am afraid that you all have been very, very bamboozled. Very bamboozled. The last assembly meeting that I heard, I didn't have enough time. I traveled from state to state, so I'm not here full time to show you guys, but now it shows that I clearly have to, because the business practices of these two gentlemen in this cahoots, I mean, the fact that he keeps him on after all these accounts of violence shows his character. We're talking about character here. I'm not against him getting his club. If he is worthy, get the club. But his character, the lies, the consistent lies that have taken place in front, even one today talking about a disposition at 1:30. My attorney looked all into it. We're trying to find out what this disposition is that he's trying to claim that he can't speak on because something's going on in another courtroom that is now all of a sudden undiscoverable. The lies are just amazing to me, and I'm sitting back here watching, and I'm just baffled. I don't know why people think that this stuff is not discoverable, that you guys will not be brought to light with this. I personally am going to speak to my attorneys and make sure that you guys get the full video of the malpractices that took place at Fusions that was under his complete control, his management. He was the boss. He did the hiring. All of the 9 employees that you'll see on there, none of them are on none of his tax paperwork or any kind of compensation. They're all paid under the table, including the security guard that attacked me that was sitting there waiting for payment from Robert. So I'm going to be the voice of the community here. I have an obligation to protect the community. This criminal activity that goes in way deep, and it will all come to light. It will all come to light. There's a lot of conspiracy. There's a lot of things going on that unfortunately you guys can't see through unless somebody brings it to you. But out of fear, many people are scared to. I'm no longer scared. Scared bringing it to the public light is my safety.
You'll need to summarize this. You need to summarize. Is that it?
I'm done. I would like a main email for all of you, though. I don't have a way to send you guys a video via email.
Contact the municipal clerk.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the member comments? Anybody else? The community?
This is different issues talking about. That's here. That's supposed to start at 1 o'clock today from his attorney.
Okay, nothing further. Yes, Mr. Alexander.
I do. And just briefly.
We're not here to have an argument or anything.
I know, I understand, but I asked Mrs. Haynes to show, to have prepared a video of which, and I think is important for you to see because you're using this testimony against me. And it's a real brief video. It's about 30 seconds. Do you know if she has that?
Yeah, we do.
While she's getting that ready, there was an incident that happened at the Avenue Bar where the police was called, where there was 2 guys fighting for the same reasons that this person that is being sued by this gentleman for sexual touching another male. And I'm pretty sure if we're asking the chief to get information, he can get that information that will show that he was the guy that was fighting this past weekend at another bar. This information here shows information, this guy's character at a different bar. I just want you to show, so if he's acting this way, and he did at Fusions, and, you know, there's gonna be problems. This is what we have here.
So, excuse me.
Ms. Tucker, can you advise,
Yeah.
I'm not real sure that
I'll
this
go
is
to
right.
trial now.
Excuse me.
Was this meeting here to bring all of this up? Because I could have brought my attorneys and everything. I wasn't aware that this was an
Mr.
agenda.
Marty, please,
Okay.
you've had your, Ms. Tucker.
If this is a video of a premises under your control that you want to furnish to the assembly to support your position, then the one thing that I would say about this is that we previewed it and it has very foul language, and so you may want to think about playing it without that language. If, on the other hand, this is, as I've understood you for the first time now, to say that this is a premises not under your control,
That is correct. I did say that.
then I don't think there is any business for this public safety meeting to have this. It wasn't on
If
the
you would like us to have a
agenda.
copy, please leave it with the clerk and we'll see if we can read it.
He submitted it to the clerk.
It's been submitted?
Yeah, it's been submitted to the clerk. But
The only reason I say that is because it's similar, you guys are gonna judge my character of public safety off of this gentleman's testimony.
I'm not trying to get a nightclub.
Sir?
And that's the reason why I requested that, for the only reason.
So as long as it's at the clerk's office, those members that wish to view it may be able to do so to consider the character of the person making complaints. There are a lot of things we must consider, but most importantly, we have to consider what's best in public safety and interest for all of the community.
And last, Mr. Chairman, is it possible that we can have this meeting is studied the 27th, I will not be in the country. In fact, I'm supposed to leave on the 6th, the 7th, and I postponed that trip. The cruise part I can't do, but I may end up doing it. Can this meeting, the study the 27th, be changed to the 13th?
13th of January? I don't believe that meets our 21-day report.
The 21 days that I can waiver? Can I waiver those days?
Do we have enough time for public notice? I don't believe we do at this point.
well, I'd have to look at that. If the public,
How about
the
postponing it until
agenda
February?
deadline for the 13th is this Friday. The 21 days, I'll have to look and see, and to see if that is written to be for the benefit specifically of the applicant.
Jay, I'm just looking at the code section you
thank
provided. It's also notice to the community council involved, and they're not going to waive. So it would have to go into February if you can't make that hearing.
If you would like us to consider postponing it until February, we could do that.
Okay.
Or we could entertain that.
When do you need me to do that by? Because if I'm trying to get out of the other part of the trip so that I can be here for the 27th. This is costing me, as I mentioned to you guys, a ton of money every day, rather open or not, I understand, but.
If you could let us know yesterday, it'd be great. I don't want to.
When is the next meeting in February?
Mr. Mosher, do you know the next scheduled meeting for February, past the 27th is?
Is it a 10 or 11?
He's got it in his phone, I'm sure. Commander Brown.
I think it's the 3rd.
3rd of February?
Yep, it is the 3rd.
Okay, if you'd like, you could, we would have to do it under special orders. When it gets to the point of the agenda, we would make a motion to.
So let's shoot for the 3rd.
Okay. Nothing else?
Well, no, do I need to contact who for that?
Ms. Mosher or the clerk's office.
Okay.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned.